The deal: Keanu Reeves never liked playing games. He was the kind of man who showed up early, held the door for strangers, and tipped the barista with a smile even when the coffee was cold. But love had left him bruised. It wasn't just the heartbreak. It was the silence that followed, the kind that filled the apartment like fog. His ex, Claire, had been everything once. And then she wasn't. On a gray Thursday morning, Keanu sat by the window of a small cafe in Venice Beach, stirring, his coffee as though waiting for an answer at the bottom of the cup. He wore a dark hoodie, his hair slightly messy and a look of quiet sadness in his eyes. He wasn't hiding from fans. He was hiding from a memory. Then his phone buzzed. It was a message from Jake, his longtime friend and assistant. She's back, in town, with her fiancé, and they're coming to the gala next weekend. Keanu stared at the message. For a long second, he didn't move. Then slowly, he typed back. "I'll go," Jake replied instantly. "Alone?" Keanu hesitated. Then, for the first time in months, a mischievous grin curved on his lips. No, not alone. She was standing in the frozen aisle at a local grocery store trying to decide between chicken nuggets or a veggie stir-fry. Her name was Lena. She wasn't famous. She wasn't trying to be. She worked as a waitress by night and took theater classes during the day. Acting was her dream, but reality kept getting in the way. Today, reality was a flat tire, spilled coffee, and a customer who yelled because his eggs weren't sunny side up. So when a man wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap tapped her on the shoulder and said, "I need a fake girlfriend," she almost dropped her basket. "Excuse me," she blinked. Keanu removed his glasses and gave a gentle smile. "I know how this sounds, but hear me out." She stared at him. "You're Keanu Reeves." "Guilty," he said. "And you need..." "What?" "Just one night, one gala. Pretend to be my girlfriend." He looked almost embarrassed. "I'll pay you, of course." Lena laughed. It wasn't mean. It was more like disbelief wrapped in exhaustion. "Are you serious?" "Completely. My ex is going to be there. She broke up with me, and now she's getting married. I just don't want to look pitiful." Lena tilted her head. "You're Keanu Reeves. I think pitiful is the last word anyone would use. You'd be surprised." She looked at him for a long time. Then slowly she asked, "What's in it for me?" Keanu didn't blink. $5,000, and I'll introduce you to 2 casting directors who owe me a favor." The contract was verbal. No real kisses. No actual flirting. Just polite hand-holding, some couple-like smiles, and small talk that made it seem like they'd been together for a while. Keanu told her everything she needed to know. His favorite books, his go-to restaurants, even what cologne he wore before. He switched to unscented. Lena listened carefully, occasionally writing notes on a napkin with a purple pen. She wasn't nervous, not really, but when he picked her up that night in a sleek black car and handed her a small corsage, she felt something shift. "I thought we were faking it," she said. "We are. But fake doesn't have to mean careless." Those words sat in her chest, like warmth. The gala was held in a sprawling mansion by the hills. The lights sparkled like diamonds, and people dressed in gowns and tuxedos floated from room to room like clouds of perfume. Keanu held Lena's hand gently, guiding her through the crowd, smiling at old acquaintances, nodding at journalists who tried not to gawk. Then she saw Claire. She was tall, with sharp features and a laugh that sounded like crystal breaking. Her fiancé stood beside her, perfect teeth and polished shoes. They looked like a magazine cover. When Claire saw Keanu, her eyes narrowed just for a second. Then she smiled. "Keanu," she said sweetly. "You look well." He nodded. "Thanks, you too." "And who's this?" Claire turned to Lena, her smile cool. Keanu tightened his grip around Lena's hand. "This is Lena, my girlfriend." Lena stepped forward, her voice steady. "Nice to meet you, Claire. He's told me so much about you." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Has he?" Lena smiled. "Oh yes. But don't worry. Nothing you'd find scandalous." The tension in the air was subtle, but it was there. Claire laughed, but there was something hollow in it. Well, we should catch up sometime. As she turned away, Lena whispered, That went well? Keanu exhaled slowly. That was terrifying. As the night wore on, the fake lines blurred. Lena laughed too hard at his jokes. Keanu brushed hair away from her face when no one was looking. They danced under soft lights, pretending to be something they weren't. And yet, in that moment, it felt more real than either expected. Later, as they drove home, Lena looked out the window and said, You're not really over her, are you? Keanu was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I thought I was, but seeing her, it hit me harder than I expected. Lena nodded. It's okay. You don't have to explain. You were amazing tonight, he said softly. Thank you. I was just playing a part, she replied. But even she didn't believe that. The next morning, Lena woke up to a knock on her door. She opened it to find a small envelope. Inside was the agreed payment and a note. Thank you for being kind when you didn't have to. She held the note for a long time. Meanwhile, Keanu sat at his piano, fingers frozen above the keys. He couldn't stop thinking about her laugh, the way she handled herself around Claire, how she made him feel, seen, not as a movie star, but as a man still trying to heal. He had hired a stranger to fake a relationship. Now he wasn't sure if he wanted it to stay fake. The afterglow, it had only been one night, but something had shifted inside Keanu. The morning air felt different. The coffee didn't taste so bitter. He still remembered Claire's laugh echoing in the mansion, but now it was Lena's voice that played louder in his mind. He looked at the note he had left her. For a moment, he considered texting her, just something casual like, How are you? Or, You left your earrings in the car. But there were no earrings, and he didn't want to pretend anymore. Not even a little. Meanwhile, Lena sat on her small couch, the envelope unopened beside her. She stared at the note. Thank you for being kind when you didn't have to. It wasn't the money that made her chest ache. It was the fact that, for the first time in a long time, she felt important. Not useful, not convenient, but important. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Can I take you to breakfast? She smiled. Lena. Only if you promise it won't be fake. Keanu. Nothing about this feels fake anymore. They met at a quiet diner far from Hollywood noise. No cameras, no fans. Just two people in a booth sharing pancakes and memories. Lena poured syrup slowly over her plate and said, So what now? We pretend we don't know each other again? Keanu shook his head. I don't want to pretend anymore. Me neither, she whispered. He looked at her closely. Tell me something real. Something you haven't told anyone. Lena paused, the fork frozen halfway to her mouth. Then she put it down and took a deep breath. When I was 13, I watched my dad walk out on my mom. He left a note. I found it before she did. I never showed her. I just burned it. Keanu blinked. Why? Because I didn't want her to think he ever loved her less. It was easier for her to believe he just disappeared. Keanu was quiet for a long moment. That's a lot. She smiled sadly. Your turn. He hesitated, then said, softly, I once bought a house for someone who hated me, just because I thought maybe it would make them stop hating me. Did it? No, but it gave me peace. They sat in silence for a moment, not awkward, just honest. After breakfast, he drove her back, but before she stepped out of the car, she turned to him and said, Do you want this to go somewhere? He didn't rush the answer. He looked at her like he saw everything, her doubts, her hopes, her broken pieces, and said, I do. But only if you wanted to, she nodded. Then let's take it slow. Slow sounds perfect. Over the next few weeks, they met often, sometimes at parks, sometimes at small diners. They didn't call it dating, they just called it time. Lena took him to a street play where she performed a monologue barefoot on concrete. Keanu clapped louder than anyone else. He invited her to his house once, not for dinner, but just to play piano together. "I didn't know you could play," she said, impressed. "I learned to listen to my own silence," he replied. "You're full of lines like that. You make it easy." But not everything was smooth. One afternoon, Lena came to the restaurant where she worked. As she clocked in, her manager pulled her aside. "You're dating Keanu Reeves now?" She froze. How do you know?" "Someone took pictures. They're all over a gossip blog. Fans are calling the restaurant." Her heart dropped. Later that night, she found the pictures. One of them was from the gala, another was from the diner. The worst one was from a moment when Keanu had touched her face softly as she laughed. The comments were mixed, some kind, others cruel. "She's just using him. Another fame chaser. Keanu deserves better." She stared at her phone, her throat tight. Then she turned it off. Keanu called later that night. "I saw the photos. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. It is. I dragged you into my mess." "No," she said firmly. "I chose to step in, but I didn't expect to be judged by people who don't even know me. We can stop this if you want. I'll understand." Her voice trembled. "Do you want to stop?" "No," he said gently. "I just don't want to hurt you." "Then let's not stop." But the backlash didn't slow down. Her theater classmates whispered behind her back. Her best friend stopped replying to her texts. Even her mother asked, "Is this really real? Or are you pretending again?" Lena wanted to scream. But instead, she cried alone in her room and wrote letters she never sent. Keanu tried to help. He showed up with flowers, food, even a kitten once. "He needs a name," he said. "How about pressure?" she joked, wiping her eyes. "Nah, that sounds too heavy." "How about hope?" She looked at him, touched. "That's cheesy." "So am I," he said, smiling. Despite the pressure, they held on. They laughed. They shared secrets. Lena learned about the days Keanu struggled with grief, and Keanu learned about the nights Lena sat alone in a cafe pretending she was someone else, pretending she mattered. Then one evening, as they sat under a string of lights in his backyard, she asked, "Do you ever think about Claire?" He nodded. "Sometimes. Not because I miss her, but because I wonder how I let someone love me and still feel so alone." She nodded slowly. "I know that feeling. Not with you," he added. "Never with you." She looked away, her heart pounding. "I want to keep this real," he said softly. "Me too," she whispered. "But I'm scared." "So am I. But I think that's how we know it matters." Weeks passed. They grew closer. But fame doesn't forget, and neither does the past. One morning, Lena walked into the cafe and froze. Claire was sitting there sipping tea, perfectly poised. "Lena, right?" she asked. "Yes. Do you really think this will last?" Lena blinked. "Excuse me, Keanu, do you think he's really over me? Or are you just the temporary fill-in until he gets bored?" Lena's chest tightened. "He's not like that," Claire smirked. "You sure? You didn't see the way he looked at me at the gala?" Lena's voice was calm but firm. "I did, and I also saw the way he looked at me when no one was watching." Claire stood, cool and cruel. "We'll see how long you last." Lena didn't tell Keanu about the encounter. Not that night. Not even the next day. But the doubt festered inside her like a quiet flame, and one day it burned too loud. "What are we doing?" she asked him as they walked through a bookstore. He blinked. "We're finding poetry books. Remember?" "No. I mean, this." She motioned between them. "Are we playing pretend again, or is this something real?" He turned to her, gently placing the book down. "This is real, at least for me." "Then tell me you're not still in love with her." He looked at her, deeply. "I'm not." "Prove it." He didn't kiss her. He stepped back and said, "I'll show you. Real love doesn't need cameras." The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. Lena lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the bookstore moment in her head again and again. His words echoed softly. I'll show you. But what did that mean? What? Could he show that would prove love was real? She wanted to believe him, she really did, but doubts are like shadows. Once they form, they follow you everywhere, no matter how bright the light is. Meanwhile, Keanu sat on the edge of his bed scrolling through an old text thread. It was from Claire, almost a year ago. Her last message was short. Goodbye, Keanu. Please don't call. He hovered his finger above the delete button, not just to erase the messages, but to erase the lingering weight they carried. After a moment, he pressed it. Then he turned off his phone, got dressed, and called someone he hadn't spoken to in a long time. I need a favor, he said quietly into the phone. The next afternoon, Lena received a handwritten invitation, slid under her door. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, with a single word written on the front in soft ink. Tonight. Inside was a short message. You said prove it. Let me. Beneath that was an address and a time. 7 p.m. She read it 3 times. Her hands trembled. She didn't know what to expect, but something in her heart whispered, go. She arrived at a quiet rooftop just as the sun began to fall behind the hills. The sky was painted with orange, purple, and soft pink. A string of fairy lights lit the edges of the rooftop. And there, he was waiting beside a small table with 2 chairs, a simple dinner, and a record player spinning slow jazz. You did all this? She asked softly. I had help. He smiled. But yes. What is this? This is me proving it. They sat and ate, no cameras, no fans, no pretending. The food was simple. Grilled vegetables, homemade pasta, lemon water. He didn't try to impress her. He just tried to be there. After dinner, he stood and walked over to a small wooden box. He opened it and pulled out a folder. These are scripts, he said. From friends of mine, directors, producers, good ones, real ones. They're looking for new talent. Lena looked confused. Why are you showing me this? Because when we first met, I promised you connections. And even if this whole thing ends tomorrow, I want you to have this, not because you dated me, but because you deserve a shot. She stared at him. You didn't have to do this. I know, but I wanted to. That doesn't prove you're over Claire. No, he said gently. But this does. He pulled out a second envelope and handed it to her. She opened it slowly. Inside was a letter, not for her, but for Claire. Dear Claire, I forgive you. Not because you apologized, but because I need peace. We shared something once and it ended. I see now it ended for a reason. I don't miss you anymore. I miss who I thought you were. And I'm ready to love again. Really love. Goodbye, Lena swallowed hard. I was holding on to pieces of a ghost, Keanu said. I don't want ghosts anymore. She didn't speak. She stepped forward and hugged him, tight, like something had finally landed inside her. And for the first time, he hugged her back not as an actor or a friend, but as a man who meant it. Days passed. They spent more time together. Lena started reading through the scripts. She auditioned for 2 of them and got a call back for 1. She started to smile again, not just because of Keanu, but because she was finally stepping into her own light. But happiness never comes without its tests. One evening, Lena got a call from her mother. Your picture's on a magazine cover. Lena's stomach sank. She walked to the corner store, bought the magazine, and froze. The headline read, Keanu's new girl, actress or actress turned girlfriend. Beneath it was a story, twisting everything they had, claiming she was just using him for roles, calling her a career clinger. She took the magazine, slammed it into the trash, and stormed out of the store. Keanu found her crying on the stairs outside his building. She didn't look up when he sat beside her. You saw it? She asked. He nodded. I did. Everyone thinks I'm using you, but you're not. I know, but they don't. Do you want to stop this? He asked gently. She didn't answer for a long time, then she said, I want to stop being the girl in someone else's story. I want to be my own person. He nodded. Then let's write a new one. The next morning, Keanu made a bold decision. He went live on his social media, something he almost never did. His voice was calm and clear. Hi. I don't usually do this, but I need to say something. Lena isn't using me. She never asked me for anything. I came to her with a ridiculous offer, and she said yes, thinking it was just a favor, but she stayed. Not because I'm famous, but because she saw something in me when I didn't even see it myself. So if you're going to attack someone, attack me. I started it, but she's the one who made it real. The video went viral. Millions shared it, and slowly, the comments started to change. A few weeks later, Lena got the role. It wasn't big, but it was real. She was cast in a supporting role in a film directed by someone Keanu had introduced her to, but she got it on her own on set. She was nervous, but she remembered what Keanu had told her the night before. Don't act to be seen, act to be felt. She held on to those words. On opening night, she walked the red carpet in a soft blue dress. Not with Keanu, not as his date, but alone, as herself. She posed, she smiled, she answered questions. And when someone asked, "Where's Keanu?" she simply replied, "He believed in me before I believed in myself. That's enough for tonight." Keanu watched from home, eyes wide, chest full. He didn't need her beside him to be proud. He just needed her to know she belonged. Later that night, she rang his doorbell. "How'd it go?" he asked, pulling her inside. "You didn't watch?" "I did, but I wanted to hear it from you." She smiled. "It went great." He reached for her hand. "Ready for Act 2? "What's Act 2? He leaned in close, his voice a whisper. "The part where the fake couple finally becomes real." She laughed softly. "That was Act 1? "Yeah," he said, his hand brushing her cheek. "But Act 2, that's where the real story begins." The fall before the rise, the days after Lena's film premiere felt like a dream. The reviews came in, some glowing, some cautious, but all mentioning her name. She walked into cafes and heard people whisper her name with curiosity, not judgment. It was different. For the first time, she wasn't just Keanu Reeves' girlfriend. She was Lena Hart, the actress. Keanu stayed in the background. He never tried to steal her spotlight. Instead, he supported her quietly, showing up with flowers, sending late-night texts like, "You're seen in the rain? Perfection." He wanted her to shine. He wanted her to win. But fame is a tricky mirror. Sometimes it reflects truth. Sometimes it warps everything. One evening, Lena got a call from a casting agent. It was for a lead role, her first. The script was deep, emotional, raw, about a woman torn between her dream and her past. The catch? The director was difficult, known for pushing boundaries and sometimes people. "Do you think I should take it?" she asked Keanu over dinner. He nodded slowly. "If the story moves you, then yes." "Even if it takes me away for 3 months?" He paused. "Especially if it takes you away for 3 months. This is your moment. Don't dim it for anyone, not even me." She smiled. "You always know what to say." But deep inside, he wondered what it would feel like to let her go, even for a while. Rehearsals began. Then the travel. Then the long days on set. Lena flew to New York while Keanu stayed behind in Los Angeles. Their video calls were sweet at first, every night like clockwork. She'd tell him about her scenes, her struggles, her triumphs. He'd listen patiently, his eyes filled with pride. But slowly the calls became shorter, sometimes missed, sometimes delayed. Once she forgot to call altogether, and Keanu, who had once found silence comforting, now felt haunted by it. One night he finally said it, over the phone softly. "Do you feel us slipping?" She didn't answer right away. "I feel overwhelmed," she said. "By me?" "No," she whispered. "By everything, the pressure, the eyes, the fact that one wrong step and everyone thinks I'm only here because of you. You're not." I know, but it still feels like that sometimes. Keanu leaned back, running a hand through his hair. I don't want you to lose yourself. Then maybe we need space. His heart cracked. Space, he repeated. Just until the shoot is over. Okay, he said, but promise me something. What? Don't forget who we are. I won't, she said, though her voice didn't sound sure. The weeks without her were heavy. He threw himself into music, into charity events, into anything that kept his mind busy. But nothing filled the quiet ache inside him. Everywhere he went, people asked, "Where's Lena?" And every time he smiled and said, "Working," though, inside, he wondered if they were still them. Meanwhile, Lena struggled too. The director pushed her hard. The scenes drained her. One night, she cried in her trailer after filming a difficult confrontation. Her co-star knocked and said, "You?" "Okay," she nodded, wiping her tears. "Just tired. Want to talk?" "I'm fine," she said. But she wasn't. She missed Keanu. She missed the calm in his voice. The way he looked at her like she mattered. The way he never tried to control her dreams, only cheered them on. Then, one day, tabloids struck again. Photos surfaced. Lena at dinner with her co-star, laughing, leaning slightly across the table. The headline screamed, "Trouble in Paradise?" Lena heart spotted with rising actor. No Keanu in sight. Keanu stared at the photo for a long time. He wanted to trust her. He did trust her. But pain has a way of whispering lies, and for a moment he felt cold again. He didn't call. She noticed. 3 days passed. Then she called. "I saw the headline," she said softly. "I know. Do you believe it? Do you want me to?" Keanu. He waited. "It was just dinner," she said. "He's a friend. I didn't even know someone took that photo." "I believe you," he said. "I just wish you'd told me. I didn't think it mattered." "Everything matters when you're in the spotlight," he said. "Especially to people looking for cracks." There was silence. Then she said, "Do you still want to be with me?" He didn't speak for a while, then finally, "I don't want to lose us." "Then don't. Come home," he said. "As soon as the shoot wraps, I promise." 3 weeks later, she returned. The reunion wasn't dramatic. No kisses in the rain, no music in the background, just a quiet knock on the door and Keanu. Opening it, eyes wide, heart full, she stepped in and dropped her bags. "I'm home," she whispered. "I know," he said, and then he held her. Not as a movie star, not as a savior, just as a man in love. They spent the next few days away from everything. No phones, no cameras, just long walks, soft talks, and slow healing. One evening, as they lay on a blanket in the backyard, Lena said, "I don't want space anymore." He smiled. "Me neither." "Do you ever think about what started this?" she asked. "A lie," he said. "A beautiful one. That became the truth. Then came the next twist." Keanu got a call from a director. A massive role. A role that would take him to Japan for 5 months. "Are you going to take it?" Lena asked. "I don't know." "Why not?" "Because I don't want us to go through that again." She shook her head. "This time, we'll do it right. We'll make it work." "How?" "We stop trying to survive apart," she said. "We go together." He blinked. "You'd come with me?" "If you want me to." "I do." And just like that, the road ahead didn't look so lonely. As they packed together, 2 bags, 1 dream, they knew the journey wouldn't be perfect, but it would be theirs, real, flawed, and completely worth it. Love on foreign soil Japan was nothing like Lena imagined. It was quiet, graceful, full of stillness and motion at the same time. The cherry blossoms hadn't bloomed yet, but the streets were already lined with pink promises. She had never been so far from home, but somehow she didn't feel lost. Keanu, on the other hand, seemed right at home. He walked the streets of Tokyo like a man returning to something he'd forgotten he loved. People bowed respectfully. A few whispered his name. but no one crowded him. Here, he could breathe. Here, they both could. The apartment was small but cozy. One bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a window that opened up to a view of rooftops and power lines. Lena stood in that window the first night, holding a cup of green tea, watching the world quietly move. "Do you like it?" Keanu asked, rapping, his arms around her from behind. "I love it," she said. "It feels simple. Sometimes simple is all we need." The shoot began early the next morning. Keanu threw himself into the role. It was intense, gritty, full of emotion. Some days he came home drained, his shoulders slumped, eyes heavy. Lena met him at the door each time, handing him a towel, a plate of rice, or just her silence. Whatever he needed most. She spent her days exploring, sketching in a notebook, learning the language, visiting shrines and gardens, but more than anything she was writing, finally working on her own screenplay. Something she had put off for years. "What's it about?" Keanu asked one evening, peeking over her shoulder. "A girl who pretends to be someone she's not. Until someone shows her who she really is," he smiled. "Sounds familiar. Maybe a little. You gonna write me in?" She turned and kissed his cheek. "You're already in every line." Things were good. Better than good. They laughed. Again. Fell into routines. Sunday ramen. Tuesday markets. Thursday walks by the river. It was quiet, peaceful, and deeply real. But peace has a way of being tested. It started with a call from Lena's agent. "A major studio wants to meet. They saw your film. They're impressed. It's a potential lead." "In Los Angeles?" "Yes. The timing's tight. You'd need to fly back next week." Lena stared at the wall. Her heart pounded. "I'll think about it," she whispered. She didn't tell Keanu right away. Part of her didn't want to break the rhythm they'd found. Part of her was scared. When she finally did, it was late at night. He was sitting on the balcony, sipping hot tea, wrapped in a thin sweater. "There's an offer," she said gently. He looked at her, calm but alert. "Where?" "Home." He nodded slowly. "Do you want to go?" She hesitated. "I think I need to." He looked away for a moment, then back at her. "Then you should. What about us? We'll figure it out." "Really?" "Yes. But this time, let's not fall apart. Let's plan. Let's fight for it." "I don't want to lose this," she said, tears threatening. "Then don't." They made a plan. She'd fly out for 2 weeks, meet the studio, do the screen test, then come back. Simple, clean, but life rarely sticks to plans. 2 weeks turned into 3, then 4. The studio loved her, offered her the role, but the contract required months of training, fittings, press tours. Keanu watched, from afar, proud but distant. They called every night, video chatted, texted constantly, but it wasn't the same. One night, Lena didn't answer. He waited, then called again. No reply. The next morning, she called back. "I fell asleep," she said. "Long day." He believed her. But something felt off. Days passed. Then, Lena posted a photo. It was innocent, her on set, laughing with the director. But the internet noticed the missing detail. "No ring," one comment said. "Where's Keanu?" Said another. Rumors swirled. Again. Keanu tried to ignore them, but doubt is a slow poison. And this time, it crept deeper. Meanwhile, Lena was drowning in pressure. New agents, new expectations, new voices telling her who to be, how to act, what to wear. She missed the small apartment in Japan, the smell of tea, the way Keanu touched her shoulder when she was writing. But she didn't call as much, and when she did, she was tired, rushed, distracted. Then came the fight. A small one at first. He called during a break. She answered but seemed cold. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," she said too quickly. "You don't sound fine." "Keanu, I'm just busy." "Too busy for 5 minutes?" she sighed. "I can't do this right now." "What do you mean?" I mean, I don't know. This long distance thing. It's hard." His heart sank. Are you saying you want out? I don't know what I'm saying. Then call me when you do. He ended the call. They didn't speak for days. Lena tried to move forward. The role demanded her full attention, but her heart wasn't in it. She stared at her phone every night, waiting for a message that didn't come, until one morning she woke up to find something unexpected in her inbox, a video from Keanu. It wasn't polished. It was just him, sitting at their kitchen table in Japan holding a copy of her script. I read this, he said softly. Every page, every line, and I saw myself. Not because it's about me, but because I see how you see the world, how you see people. He looked into the camera. You asked me once if I believed in us. The answer is yes. But you have to believe in us too. He paused. Come back, or tell me to come to you. But don't let this be another almost. She cried watching it, then called him. Can I come home? She whispered. Always, he said. 3 days later they met again. No red carpet, no cameras, just an airport terminal and two people running toward each other like they couldn't breathe without it. They didn't say much. They didn't need to. Some things are spoken better in silence. Later that night, in the quiet of their Tokyo apartment, Lena placed something on the table, a printed version of her script. She pointed to the title. I want you to play the lead. Keanu looked stunned. Me? Yes. It was always meant to be you. Are you sure? I'm more sure than I've ever been about anything. And just like that, a new story began. Not one they had to pretend, but one they would write. Together. The story they wrote together, the first day of filming, was unlike anything Lena had experienced. The lights were hot. The air buzzed with quiet urgency. Camera crews moved in precise, practiced rhythm. Producers whispered behind clipboards. And there, standing in the center of it all, was Keanu, rehearsing lines she had written from the deepest part of her heart. He wore a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled, face calm, but alert. She watched him from behind the monitor as he stood under soft lighting and delivered a monologue she had once written on a napkin during a long, tearful night. He looked straight into the lens, voice steady. You think I'm broken, but the truth is, I was only ever half alive until you saw me, and now I can't go back to pretending. Her throat tightened. This wasn't just acting. This was something real. They had both changed since the start of their strange story. Two strangers tied together by a lie, now standing side by side in the truth. They weren't playing characters anymore. They were living something honest, something fragile, something worth protecting. And for the first time, Lena felt like she was no longer chasing someone else's spotlight. She had built her own. After the scene wrapped, Keanu found her sitting by the stairs, notebook in hand. Was it okay? He asked. You made it better than I ever imagined, she whispered. He sat beside her. Remember the first time we met? He asked. You thought I was crazy. You kind of were. She smiled. Maybe. But maybe crazy is how all good love stories start. Weeks passed and the film took shape. It was a simple story about healing and identity, but every scene felt like a reflection of what they had lived. The cast was small, the budget tight, but the passion, immeasurable. Keanu and Lena worked side by side every day, sometimes arguing over dialogue, sometimes laughing until tears fell, but always holding each other steady when the pressure rose. They were no longer just partners in love. They were partners in purpose. Then came the film festival. They didn't expect to be selected, but they were. And suddenly, the film was being screened in front of hundreds, directors, critics, dreamers, skeptics. Lena sat in the back row, knees bouncing. Keanu reached for her hand and held it quietly. No matter what happens, he whispered, we already won. She nodded, but she couldn't breathe until the final scene played, and when the screen faded to black there was silence, then applause, then a standing ovation. Lena buried her face in her hands. Keanu leaned in. They felt it, he said. After, The screening, reporters surrounded them. Cameras flashed, microphones were shoved into their faces. Are you two together? Was this film based on your real story? Did you fall in love during filming? Lena looked at Keanu. He looked back at her. Then he said without hesitation, "We fell in love pretending. We stayed in love because it stopped feeling like a performance." Lena added, "This wasn't just a movie. It was a memory." The film was picked up for distribution. It was nominated for 3 awards. But the biggest reward came one quiet morning, long after the festivals, after the cameras. Keanu woke up to find Lena sitting by the window, sunlight wrapping around her like a warm scarf. She was holding her notebook, flipping through it slowly. He walked over and kissed her shoulder. "You writing something new?" She smiled. "I think I'm done pretending to be other people." "So what now?" "Now." She turned to him. "I want to write about us, but not the beginning, not the middle, the part people forget." "What part?" "The part after the credits roll, where life gets messy, but love holds anyway." He smiled. "That sounds like a good story." She nodded. "It already is." Months passed, then years. They didn't chase the spotlight anymore. They chose peace, stillness, late-night talks and early morning walks. Lena wrote, Keanu acted. Sometimes they worked together, sometimes apart, but never separate. Love, they learned, wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was in the quiet ways they showed up, in the gentle laughter before sleep, in the silent support on hard days, in the shared silence that didn't need to be filled. And sometimes, when Lena stood at a podium holding a small trophy, she would glance at him in the crowd, her voice trembling. "This story wouldn't exist if I hadn't answered a stranger who asked me to pretend." The audience would laugh. But she always added, "And I never stopped pretending. I just stopped pretending I didn't love him." One evening, back in that same small cafe where it all began, they sat side by side at the window. Keanu stirred his coffee slowly, glancing out at the street. "Funny how life works," he said. "What do you mean?" "I just needed someone to play a part. And I found the one person who changed the whole script." Lena rested her head on his shoulder. "So what now?" He smiled. "Now we keep writing." And they did. Together. Always.